Okay, hi, my name is Julianna Neudorf, and this morning I want to take you on my design process of my garden, which I'm calling Memory Lane. So my garden is located in Matira Glen Park in Kelowna, BC. Kelowna has a very temperate climate with warm winters and warm summers and comfortable winters. There's also 2 peaks of rainfall throughout the year. As well, Kelowna gets a lot of sunshine, particularly in the summer months. So I consider this when thinking about my planting palette. So as I mentioned, my garden is in Matira Glen Park, which is a 0.83 hectare park and one of 7 that compose Brants Creek Linear Park. So existing on my park right now, there's some infrastructure like benches and tables, a small playground equipment, a bridge that crosses Brants Creek, as well as some gravel pathways around the perimeter of the park. Otherwise, though, the park is relatively flat and open. So adding a little context, the park is in a residential neighborhood, so the visitors to the site are primarily families and kids. They would be using the playground equipment. There's a small basketball court here they could use, or they could go watch ducks in the duck pond. Brants Creek flows through the west side of my site, and actually originally the park was designed as a basin in case Brants Creek ever flooded. They wanted to try and save some of the surrounding infrastructure. And I put my proposed garden here, which I wanted to connect to an existing entrance to the park here on the east, close to Matira Avenue, as there is a retirement home just 500 meters east of the site. And this retirement home has over 100 rooms, and half of those are for adults with some sort of memory impairment. So this led me to my design statement. I wanted to use planting to create an all-season garden that promotes wellness of an aging memory. So with improving memory as my driver, I started my site investigation, noting some of the existing experiences and senses that were evoked when at the park. With my design, I decided to focus on sight, sound, and smell to create my multisensorial garden. I tried to avoid taste and touch as we are living in a world of COVID now, and people tend to stay away from touching and eating things in public. So I came back and started designing some options for my gardens that would hopefully allow visitors to either improve their memory or form new memories. I iterated and refined these and came up with some designs I liked, but was a bit lost on how to make these into a multisensorial restorative garden. So I did some research and came up with a few methods shown to reduce stress and improve memory. The ones I went with were increased exercise, so incorporating walking loops into my design, practicing meditation and mindfulness, so having a meditation garden that used aromatic planting, and then finally playing brain games and exercising cognitive skills, so having a place where people could play games together and socialize. So with these elements, I focused on designing for a couple different experiences. Maybe your grandparents want to go to the park and watch their grandchildren play, or you want to find a quiet place to relax and contemplate and walk around the garden. I took these design elements and ideas and incorporated and rearranged them around my garden in different ways, and then came up with a couple designs that I wanted to develop further. So these included seating, gathering areas, different walking loops, as well as different meditation gardens with planting around them. As I progressed, I wanted to also play with the topography of the site and incorporate water into my design as a sensory sound experience. So considering my park was designed as a basin, I wanted to, instead of creating a channel for the water to flow through, raise up portions of the garden to create waterways when the park was in its flooded condition. So with these ideas and experiences, I did some more iterations and incorporated my design elements, as well as taking forms from the existing park into my garden to create to tie the garden into the park. So my final design included a place to play games, 2 different raised meditation gardens, a simple and easy to follow walking loop, as well as a raised seating area that was close to the existing playground. So parents and grandparents could watch their kids and grandkids play on the equipment. So I then separated my park into 4 different spaces and used different types of planting to create various experiences around the garden. Starting with looking at the transition zones, I wanted to use a variety of ground cover and ornamental grasses so that during the flooded condition, which I showed here, these plants would be covered up, but the 2 raised gardens as well as the seating deck would still be open to the public. Then during the majority of the time when the park wasn't flooded, you would have these grasses around the gardens that would kind of act as water or waves when the wind was blowing through them. Looking at the long section through my garden, I wanted to look at this games and gathering area. For the planting, I selected plants with low forms and colorful flowers to not obscure the view to the rest of the park, as well as liven up the atmosphere for socializing. On this transverse section, you can see the raised gardens, so where the water would flow in these low points, as well as I cut through the entrance to the park where I wanted to use a lot of evergreen species, as well as trees and shrubs with winter appeal, so little birch trees and things like that. So I wanted to make the park welcoming and inviting regardless of when you visited. So in my first perspective, I tried to highlight the experience of being in the meditation garden and how you would be able to feel this sense of enclosure and being away from the urban context. I positioned different alcoves along the walking trail where you can sit and relax, maybe read a book. And then for planting, I wanted to focus on lavender for its aromatic appeal and ability to reduce stress, and then built my planting palette off of that. For the second perspective, I took more of an abstract approach to it and made a collage from different magazine clippings and then photoshopped the people on top. I wanted to show the experience of playing games like chess, learning, and maybe making new memories in the park. For the planting, I brought the purple over from the lavender garden and then incorporated some yellows as a complementary color. But I also really wanted to focus on rosemary in this side of the garden, again, for its aromatic appeal. And then I really wanted to make this an all-season garden. So when looking at the bloom schedule for my garden, I chose plants that some evergreen and some that would extend the bloom season throughout the year. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed that and really would appreciate any feedback you have.